everyone, InFamous Prime here. So it is time for another franchise ranking video today. This time it's going to be for another video game franchise. And this is one of my favourite video game franchises of all time. And it's made by the company Sucker Punch Productions. And this is a franchise which has been on consoles such as PlayStation 3 and PlayStation 4. And this, of course, is none other than the video games of InFamous. So I have all four of the main video games right here. One of them is an expansion into a game, but it's still a separate game or released. And I'm going to be ranking these games I've played from best to weakest, in my personal opinion, because I personally think that none of these games suck. I think they're all really good games, in my opinion. There's just one which I think is weaker than the others, but I still think it's a good game nonetheless. And this is also my personal opinion too, so if you guys don't agree with me, that's absolutely fine, but please respect my opinion just like I respect yours. So, when it comes, of course, to what I would put in first place, I'm going to pick up what is most definitely one of my favourite video games of all time. Not just my favourite InFamous game, but also one of my favourite video games of all time. And that, of course, is none other than 2011's InFamous 2. So, this game is not just my favourite InFamous game, but it's also, in my opinion, one of the greatest video game sequels ever made. And also, in my opinion, the best game that Sucker Punch have made ever. I think it's an absolute masterpiece from start to finish. This is one of those games which takes everything that is great about the first game, brings it back and adds more awesome things to it and makes it a massive improvement. And I think this game absolutely nailed it, in my opinion, in terms of making a bigger and better game than the predecessor. I'm not saying predecessor wasn't good, but I think this game is a massive improvement in comparison. And you have, of course, an amazing protagonist being Cole McGrath. In my opinion, he is the best Sucker Punch creative protagonist of all time. And I personally prefer his characterization in this game over the first game. And I especially also prefer his voice in this, voiced by Eric Lardin. I did like Jason Cole from the first game, but I think Eric, to me, is Cole. And I can't imagine anyone playing role better than him. And I love how this game, while it brings back familiar powers from the first game, it also introduces his new abilities. One thing I definitely loved the addition of was Cole's melee weapon, the Amp. And I also thought the parkour was absolutely sick. And I also definitely love the open world, of course, as well, which is definitely really awesome too. Which, of course, was the city New Mare, which is, of course, based on New Orleans in America. And I think they did a really great job getting inspiration from New Orleans for the game. And I think it was done so well. And the graphics, in my opinion, were also mind-blowing. Like, when I play this game, I was loving every second of it, because it was such an amazing game. A huge step up to the first game, in my opinion. And with a phenomenal story, as well, in my opinion, and just sick parkour and traverse. It's just amazing. And I also love how they also changed the antagonists too, because, as well as, of course, being soldiers that you fight, I also love how not only do they also bring my conduits as well who you can fight, but also as well, loads of, like, creatures to fight. That, in my opinion, was a great improvement right there, how they made the villains different compared to the first game. I thought that was a nice touch. And the story, in my opinion, is phenomenal. And it also brings back the karma system from the first game too. And I think they did a really great job of it here. If you guys are wondering what I go for when playing these games, I go for good karma. So, I will always go for the good side when playing these games, because that's what I prefer, really. And I think this game is just absolutely phenomenal. To me, it is the best InFamous game of all time and one of the greatest games ever made. And one day I will definitely post a review for it showing nothing but pure love, because I think it's a full-blown masterpiece from start to finish. And if you guys haven't played already, please do, because I think it's phenomenal. If I was to give it a score out of 10, I would give it a full-blown 10 out of 10. Just an absolute masterpiece right there, which I enjoyed every second of playing it, and I would recommend strongly to you guys if you've not played it yet. It's on PS3 as an exclusive, so you need a PS3 to play it, though. Then on to what is my second favourite in the franchise, is actually the first InFamous game that I played, and this was, of course, a PS4 launch game, actually, released on March 21st, 2014, alongside, of course, the release of a PS4 that year, and that, of course, was InFamous Second Son. Now, I also think this game is great too, as well, and I think it's an example of a revolutionary game for a PS4 console, or for many reasons, really. What's great about it is that I definitely love the character in this called Delzin Rock, who is played by Troy Baker. Troy Baker is a phenomenal voice actor, and I think Delzin is one of his best roles ever. He did a really great job playing Delzin in this, and there's great supporting characters in it as well. And I love the open world of Seattle you can explore, which is pretty awesome. I definitely love doing that in the game. And I love as well how it's introduced lots of new powers for Delzin to use. I love how it introduced several ones, such as, of course, things like smoke, neon, and also video as well, and also concrete. That, in my opinion, was a very nice touch, how they introduced lots of new powers for a character as a bit of like a booster to make it bigger than what came before, really. It's a PS4 game, so they would, of course, make it bigger than a PS3 game, right, of course. The story, I think, is also great as well, and I love how they brought back Karma as well in this too. And of course, the story was a lot of fun because of that. And there's tons of things you do, open world too, lots of activities you can do for your Karma and just for fun, really. And I think it's definitely a great game. And I say revolutionary because not only, of course, did it help launch for PS4, but also because it introduces really cool features on the PS4 controller in particular. For example, the controller makes noises, which is pretty awesome. For example, walkie-talkie sounds play on the controller itself. And also as well, you can actually use the controller to do graffiti in the game because there's a graffiti puzzle you can do. And you've got to actually, you know, move the controller itself, which is actually, in my opinion, brilliant. And what's awesome is the controller light on the PS4 actually changes colour when you're using it, which I think is brilliant. And it also changes colour when you're switching powers, which I think is an awesome detail right there. I definitely really love that feature of it. So, yeah, this game is absolutely awesome. I mean, if I was thinking of any nitpicks I'd have with it, I mean, I guess maybe that it doesn't add up to InFamous 2, especially in terms of a character, because I personally think Cole is the best InFamous character of all time. But Delzin, in my opinion, was a great character, and I still enjoy playing as him. So once again, I love this game, and I would definitely also give it a 10 out of 10. Definitely my second favourite in the franchise. Then on to what is my third favourite, is going to be, of course, the one that started this franchise, which, of course, is 2009's InFamous. So, just like the other games, I think it's a great game. And definitely, of course, the game that kicks off this franchise. Without this first game, we wouldn't have this amazing franchise. And I definitely think it also helped Sucker Punch become a lot more popular as well. And definitely well-deserved because they're a great company who made lots of great video games I've played. For example, as well as these, I've always played Ghost of Tsushima and Sly Cooper as well. So, this game is awesome, and Cole McGrath is an awesome and badass character. And Jason Costa did a great job voicing him in this. Although I prefer Eric, I still think Jason did a great job playing Cole in this. And he showed lots of range in the role too, and he did a great job. And it's definitely amazing how much better these games are compared to the games of today. These games I just talked about, they beat today's games in my opinion for tons of reasons. You know, like a better story and better gameplay in my opinion. Like, and better characters. It's definitely a great game, and the open world is also great too, of course, which of course is Empire City, which does take inspiration from New York City apparently. Although personally, when I look at the open world, I don't see much of a resemblance to New York that much, really, to be honest. But apparently it's based on New York though, which is a cool thing because New York's my favourite city, so that's pretty cool. But I have played games which have better open worlds though, in my opinion, which look like New York compared to this game. But nonetheless, it's a very fun game. And there's lots of things you can do, a great story, and lots of fun side missions too as well, which are just a joy to play through, really. The only nitpick I'd have is that some of the side missions were a little bit rage-inducing for me personally, which was a bit annoying. And some of them were a bit stressful too, because they took many tries to complete, really. Especially ones which were time challenged, like the races, for example. Those, in my opinion, were pretty stressful. That's why I prefer the side missions in InFamous too, because those, in my opinion, were a lot more fun. And they weren't really time challenge, really, the races, because all you had to do was stay in the air, otherwise you'd blow up if you touched the ground. Whereas in this, you time challenge, which was a bit annoying for me. But nonetheless, though, despite those missions which were rage-inducing, this game was a lot of fun, and I'd recommend this if you want to kick off a franchise, absolutely. And when you play this game and then play the sequel, you can definitely tell, of course, how much the second game improves from the first game. It's a massive step up, in my opinion. The second game blows my mind, but this first game was still great. And it's funny that this game has a rating on of 9 out of 10 on the cover, because that's the score I give it. I give it a solid 9 out of 10. Then on to what is, in my opinion, the weakest of the InFamous franchise, but still, in my opinion, a good game nonetheless. And this is, of course, the expansion to it, and that, of course, is none other than InFamous First Light. So, when it comes to this game, I think it's a good game, don't get me wrong, but I think it's personally the weakest of the franchise, is really, for several reasons. But when it comes, of course, to what I think of it, though, what's good about it is the main character, as you have seen by the cover, is, of course, Fetch from Second Son, and she's voiced by Laura Bailey, who does a great job playing her. It's one of my favourite roles of Laura, and I think she makes Fetch a very likeable character. Abigail Walker, very likeable and fun to play as. And I like how, of course, this game gave her neon powers pretty much entirely, really, because that's her power as a conduit. So that's give me some memories of Cole, really, when I look back at Cole's games compared to this game. Because his power specialised in electricity, didn't it, at first? And now, of course, with Abigail, her power specialises in neon, which is pretty cool. And it was definitely pretty cool how they had added new features to it for her, which was really nice. And the story was also decent too, as well, in my opinion. And the graphics, like Second Son, in my opinion, were great. Because I definitely think the graphics for these games are very stunning for their time. And just really are. It's amazing how, of course, this game and Second Son are both nearly a decade old. And they look fantastic for their time. Just incredible graphics for their time. Now, when it comes to bad qualities, though. So, while I think it's a good game, I personally feel that, despite this game being a separate game to Second Son, like a separate copy, not like a DLC for anything like that, it's a separate copy which I have here, I didn't really like how it was pretty short compared to Second Son's campaign. I was a bit disappointed about that, really, to be honest. And also, as well, I also did not like how only half of the map is explorable for Seattle. You can only explore the half where Space Needle's at, outside of the city centre. So I feel that was a bit disappointing in really how only half the map is explorable in this game. Like, I was hoping they'd let you explore the whole city, but sadly you can't do it, which is a big shame. And I also wasn't really a fan of those challenges which you can do as well, really. I thought they were pretty annoying, really, at times, really. Especially ones where you got to get a really high score in them. That was pretty tough for me. But nonetheless, I think InFamous First Light is a pretty good game. And I'd recommend it if you guys want to see a prequel to Second Son, because this takes place before Second Son. So if you want to see what Fetch was up to before Second Son, I'd recommend it. So if I was to give it a score out of 10, I'd probably give it a very solid score of 8 out of 10. Because like I said, I don't think it's a bad game by any means. I just think it's the weakest one out of the InFamous games I've played. And that being said, that was me, of course, doing my ranking of the InFamous games from best to weakest. So here's how it goes in summary. So first place for me is the masterpiece InFamous 2. To me, it's one of the greatest games I've ever played in my life, and I can't recommend it enough if you guys have not played it. Then my second favourite, of course, which is Second Son. Then my third favourite, of course, the one that starts it all, InFamous. And then my least favourite, still a good game, but in my opinion, First Light. So, you know the drill, guys. Be sure to give this video a like. Also, be sure to tell us in the comments what you guys think of the InFamous video game franchise. If you've played it, let me know in the comments below how you guys would rank the games if you played them. We'll see how you guys would rank them. Also, be sure to join Team Prime Wrestling, subscribe to this coming in the future, and I'll see you all later.